Did Brayden Schenn just audition his way onto Kent Hughes' radar by absolutely dismantling the Montreal Canadiens? And is his December 7th performance about to become the catalyst for a culture-changing acquisition? Sometimes the best scouting happens when you're on the receiving end of a beating. On December 7th, 2025, the Montreal Canadiens took the ice against the St. Louis Blues and received a masterclass in exactly what they're missing. Brayden Schenn, the veteran Blues captain, didn't just lead his team. He dominated the game against the Habs with 2 goals and an assist, a display of strength and competence that left Montreal's defense with no answers. Now, just 48 hours later, exclusive analysis from Michael DeRosa suggests that performance might have been the final audition. With the Canadiens searching for help at center, Brayden Schenn emerges as the ideal veteran candidate to stabilize the locker room. The search for a center isn't new in Montreal. We've heard names floated around for weeks. But Schenn's profile fits into a different category than most targets. He's not a prospect to develop. He's not a project with upside. He's a finished product, a proven commodity, who knows exactly what it takes to win at the highest level. With the Blues struggling this season and Shen finding himself back in the rumor mill, the opportunity to add a proven leader who plays the heavy style that Martin St. Louis appreciates is incredibly tempting. He's the answer to a question Montreal desperately needs answered. Who's going to teach the kids how to win and how to hit when games get ugly? Let's talk about that December 7th performance, because it wasn't just good hockey, it was a statement. The reporting highlights this as a turning point in Shen's season, and it's no coincidence that it happened against the Habs. Shen registered 4 points in his last 3 games, but the highlight was absolutely the Montreal game. He scored twice and added an assist against the Canadiens, showing that at 34 years old, he still has plenty of gas in the tank to decide games against young, talented teams. This wasn't a veteran padding stats in garbage time. This was a player taking over a meaningful game through skill and will. The physical factor cannot be overstated, and it's exactly what Montreal lacks. Shen has 67 hits in 30 games this season. He's not a passive player who avoids contact. He's known for not being afraid to throw the body around. The Canadiens have been criticized, fairly or not, for being soft through the middle of the ice. They have skill and speed, but when games get physical, when opponents start running their young stars, who responds? Adding Shen would instantly change that identity. Suddenly, teams would think twice before taking liberties, knowing there's a 200-pound captain who's not afraid to make life miserable. The timing of his resurgence is perfect. After a slow start to the season, Shen is heating back up at exactly the right moment. With 13 points on the season, 6 goals and 7 assists, he's finding his form just as the trade market starts opening up. That's not coincidence. That's a veteran player who knows how to time his performance, who understands that December and January are when general managers start making decisions. His recent hot streak makes him more attractive, but it also might drive up the price. The tactical fit for Montreal is almost perfect, especially from a culture and leadership perspective. Shen is known for being a good leader, which is exactly why he currently wears the captain's C in St. Louis. In a young, ascending team like the Canadiens, adding a player like Shen as a mentor would potentially benefit the entire core. Nick Suzuki is doing his best as captain at 26, but having another voice in the room, someone who's been there and won a Stanley Cup, would take enormous pressure off his shoulders. The reporting suggests Shen would be a solid addition to Montreal's middle six and penalty kill. He's a reliable two-way center who helps defensively, which takes pressure off Suzuki in difficult matchups. Instead of asking your captain to handle every tough defensive assignment while also driving offense, You can deploy Shen against opponents' top lines and let Suzuki focus more on creating offense. That depth is exactly what separates playoff teams from pretenders. The versatility is another massive selling point. Shen contributes offensively when he's playing his best hockey, but his real value is in the details. Winning battles along the boards, killing penalties, protecting teammates, making the simple, smart play under pressure. These are the things that don't show up on highlight reels, but absolutely show up in the win column. Young players learn by watching veterans do these things correctly every single day. That's the kind of education you can't replicate with video sessions. But here's where this gets complicated, where the excitement turns anxiety about whether this deal is actually feasible. If the on-ice fit and locker room fit seem ideal, the financial fit is the massive problem. Shen carries a cap hit of $6.5 million and is signed to the end of the 2027 to 2028 season. That's not a rental. That's a commitment of 2.5 more years to a player who will be 37 when the contract expires. The risk is significant and can't be ignored. At 34, committing that kind of money in term is dangerous. The reporting warns that Shen has struggled at some moments this season and wouldn't come cheap. He'd be more than a rental from Montreal, which means you're not just paying for a few months of production. You're betting on sustained performance from an aging player, and that's a bet that goes wrong more often than it goes right in the NHL. This is where salary retention becomes absolutely critical to making any deal work. The article suggests the key to the entire negotiation. If the Blues were open to retaining part of Shen's salary, it could make the veteran a more realistic target for Montreal. If St. Louis retained salary, dropping the cap impact to somewhere between $3.25 and $4.5 million, Shen becomes a valuable asset instead of a cap albatross. Without retention, the contract is probably where things get complicated. As the reporting notes, salary retention isn't charity. If St. Louis agrees to eat money on Shen's deal, they'll demand better assets in return. Montreal would need to sweeten their offer, probably adding higher draft picks or better prospects. But that's the cost of doing business when you want to make the financials work. The question is whether Kent Hughes values what Shen brings enough to pay that premium price, while also taking on the term and age risk. The Blues are struggling this season, sitting near the bottom of the standings with no clear path to contention. They need to get younger and accumulate assets for a rebuild or retool. Trading their 34-year-old captain, while emotionally difficult, makes strategic sense if they can get good value. Montreal is in the opposite situation. They're competitive now, sitting in a playoff spot with a young core that desperately needs veteran leadership and physicality. The timing aligns perfectly for both organizations if they can agree on price. Acquiring Brayden Schenn would be a classic culture-building move. Kent Hughes knows he can't fill the roster with talented 20-year-olds and expect to win playoff games. You need veterans who know how the game works at the highest level, who can lead by example, and who can impose physical respect. Shen proved against Montreal just 2 days ago that he can still be a dominant force. If the Blues decide to sell and agree to retain salary to facilitate their own rebuild, Montreal should attack aggressively. The symbolism of bringing in the player who just beat you is powerful. It sends a message to the locker room that management is paying attention, that they're willing to act when they identify what's needed. Shen showed exactly what he brings: goals, physicality, leadership, and the ability to take over important games. If you're Kent Hughes, you don't ignore that audition. You pick up the phone and explore whether a deal is possible. This is the kind of move that defines whether a team is serious about competing or just happy to be in the playoff mix. Shen isn't a perfect player. He's aging, he's expensive, and there's real risk involved in the term and money. But he's exactly what Montreal needs right now. A proven winner who plays the right way and can teach the young core what championship hockey looks like. The audition happened. The performance was impressive. Now it's time to see if Kent Hughes can make the financial gymnastics work and bring Brayden Schenn to Montreal. Should the Canadiens go all in on Shen despite the age and contract concerns? Or is the risk too high for a team still building toward contention? What would you be willing to give up, and would you demand salary retention as a condition of any deal? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit that like button if you think Montreal needs to add veteran grit and leadership to complement their young skill.